The other software on the top of my must have is a CRM, some type of a CRM, customer relationship management. How are you tracking your relationship? How are you tracking conversations? Do you remember who you talked to last? Do you remember what you talked about? Where are you putting those kinds of notes? Where are you setting reminders for when you are going to reach out to someone next? Where are you keeping up with where you met them? What have they already done in your business? One of the worst feelings in the world from a customer or prospective customer's perspective is for someone to continue to offer something that you've already purchased. I know that's happened to you. Isn't it a little annoying? It's like you get the email over and you're thinking, I already bought that, but thank you. I already bought that. It starts to make you feel like a number or a dollar sign instead of a person. Most companies, they just don't know how to use their autoresponder to its fullest capability, which is the reason that happens. Because if you tag people with what they purchase and then you filter those tags when you send out new emails, then you can stop the email from sending to the people who've already purchased. But someone on your team needs to know how to do that, or you have to care enough to do it. There's lots of other automation, but those are the top two that really come to mind for me that are so important. Yes, you can have a social media tool to schedule your social media. We have one, we have a couple of them. But the truth is, most social media platforms prefer that you're doing it in real time. And if you are going to schedule, they prefer that you are scheduling using their native scheduler. You have to weigh what's more important to you. We have certain things that we do in real time. We have certain things that we schedule, but we will only schedule in the actual social media software. And then we have certain things that we schedule in a third-party software. But automate means that you are not doing it in real time and you are not relying on your memory or your time to do certain tasks. Automate is not about just replacing people. Your business will not scale if everyone is gone and you just have complete machinery working your business. That's not a good idea. Sounds great, but how do you feel when you go to the store and there are no cashiers open at all and you are forced to scan your groceries? Maybe it's just me. I digress because I do not work for you and I am not scanning these groceries. I am not scanning whatever it is that I came in here to purchase. I'll leave it right there and go home. And so think about that. Think about how you feel when you have certain experiences with other businesses. If you didn't like the experience, then you want to create a different experience for your customer. This is what scaling is about. Scaling is not about just making more money because most people scale and they make more money, but when they scale, they also create more bills. That's not scaling. Scaling is when you are able to generate more revenue without creating more expenses, and even better, by reducing expenses. That's what scaling is. And that's the reason you don't have to wait until $1 million to scale. You can be at $10,000 and scale. The idea is, how can you make more money with less expenses? And so going back to the people, you can't just get rid of all the people. You can, just not going to work out so well in the end. Automation is there so that you can use or have your people do things that automation cannot. Automation is not going to be warm and loving and fuzzy with your prospects and with your customers. That's what you need your people for. So don't believe for 1 minute the hype that AI is going to replace people. There's lots of people who think that's true. There are lots of companies that are trying to do exactly that. And trust me when I tell you, from 40 years of being in this game, from 40 years of being a fractional COO, the companies that try it will be rehiring people. It's just a matter of time, and hopefully they don't fold in the process of realizing that it's not going to work out. So automate, embrace automation. Something else I want to share with you about automation, though, is you want to choose tools that give you room to grow, but you do not want to choose tools that are so large and expensive that you don't use them. I get probably once a week, I have someone messaging me asking, what do you recommend for this? I recommend the tool that you're going to use. And even better, as the CEO of your company, I recommend that you let your team member who is going to use the tool choose the tool. I do want you to know how to use it, but only how to use it just enough so that you are not ever held hostage by a team member. If you decide that team member is not doing a good job, you don't want to feel like you can't let them go because they're doing this particular task that you don't know how to do. So you do need to know enough to be dangerous about every tool that you're using in your company, but you do not need to know it ad nauseum. You do not need to become an expert in every tool. But what is the point of you choosing the tool when that's not your job? Let the person you hired choose the tool. Now, that doesn't mean that you give them a credit card and you just let them go choose the tool. You ask them to recommend 3 tools, and they can recommend them in the order of their preference. And then you are going to need to make a decision because they will choose something that is astronomical because they don't know any better. Or they may choose something that is in their comfort zone, but it doesn't give you room to grow. Back in the day, I won't name any names, but there was this famous, well-known autoresponder that had a million bells and whistles, and it gave you clout. If you had this autoresponder, you had arrived. People thought that you were successful. When behind the scenes, as the COO for many of these companies, they were drowning in those $300 a month payments. They didn't know how to use the tool. It was way too big for their company. They didn't even need all that. It's almost like you buying a 20-room house. You have 20 bedrooms, but you just have one child. You don't need all of that. So don't get caught up in the amazing marketing of certain tools.